The world won't understand you. Hey, but it's okay. Said the world won't understand you. Cause I made you in my own way. Said the world won't understand you. Cause I made you different.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 46 of In a Good Way podcast. Today, I have a very special guest. Her name is Maria Lupita Gurulé. She's a soul reader, a psychic medium, and an NDE survivor, right? For those that don't know what an NDE is, it's a near-death experience. But I don't know why it's called that, because you really do die technically, and then you come back, right? And so that's what you experience. And well, first of all, welcome and thank you for being here.
Thank you so much, Ahmad, for having me. I'm deeply honored, truly. I'm really glad to be here. Thank you for having me.
No, thank you. The honor's all mine. And we actually already, Maria was kind enough to do a soul reading on me, which we're going to get into. I'm going to put that as a part 2 to this interview, right? It was very moving. Like I was telling her, it's probably the second time I actually got choked up during an interview. So, a lot of goosebump moments and all that. But we'll start talking about, like your experience, right? So I always like to start from the beginning. So were you already having spiritual, experiences, or did you already notice these gifts as you were little, or did it all start like after the NDE, or how did it go for you?
So I had an interesting upbringing because I had my mama was really, really aware of like her own experience of like having like star experience. And then my mom and my dad growing up here in Santa Fe, Nuevo Mexico, New Mexico, we had like a different experience. So even though I was brought up very traditional Hispanic Catholic, my mom and my dad were also seekers. And so I had like a little bit of an exposure to things. So I had experiences kind of early on. My dad was going to the University of Highlands, and he was becoming a bilingual educator.
Oh,
And
wow.
so Spanish was the first language. We went to Mexico when we were first young. I was about 3.5 years old.
Oh,
And so my mom would recount stories, and they have it on 38 millimeter, where we're at Teotihuacan and right outside of Mexico City. We also stayed in Acapulco, but there in Teotihuacan, my mama had video, and of course you can't get it on 38 millimeter. There's no sound. But I was like literally like running through the place, and I was like shouting out like, "Mira, mama, aquí está el templo del sol." Like here's the temple of the sun, mama, as if I knew the place, like three
wow.
and a half, about 4 years old. So I had that kind of experience. But then life, happens. And then I went on the traditional path. I wanted like, like going in, but always really spiritual. I'm named after, the Our Lady of Guadalupe. So my name is Maria Guadalupe. So Maria Lupita.
Mm.
And so I've always had like this deep spiritual connection, but this really happened after my NDE. Um, so this opening, I was going in a direction where I guess I called it like I needed the reset to be like, no, 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 let's like, you're not going in that direction. I was trying to go with a traditional society, like having the kids, the white picket fence, like all the normal traditional, when all the while my soul is like, okay, you're supposed to be doing this other thing.
Mm.
So that's when I had that shakeup and had a first experience like at 25. My son was born exactly 25 years ago. And I had my first experience of like an intense birth. My son was massively premature. I had what's called like a brief pop out during that moment.
Wow.
After his birth, I started to experience things about energy. I started to see like things in my mind out of need. So he was in an incubator.
Oh,
He
wow.
was like 2.7 ounces, like 2.5 pounds is what he dropped down to. He was in an incubator. I could not hold him, and my only intention was, to that he feel my love, and that I just wanted him to feel me. So I remember just praying to God right outside of his incubator, and he's a neonatal intensive care unit. And I remember just praying and warming my hands. Okay, so I was warming my hands because it's in an incubator. You can't touch them. He had this super fine, what's called lanuga hair, where he was still just, oh my God, just this little itty bitty thing. So I just put my hands over him, And when I closed my eyes and put my hands over him, I started to feel all this warmth inside of my hands. And in my mind's eye, I could picture as if I was sending all of this light to him. And then suddenly I could see like this anatomy of his lungs, and he was trying, that's the last to develop. So it looked like there was this healing happening with him in his lungs, like this laser light going back and forth, and I can see it in my mind. I could picture it. And like within 2 days later, he was moved from the neonatal intensive care unit into the regular NICU, where just his lungs. And there was something that happened in that moment where I knew that it wasn't just an image. It wasn't just in my mind. Like I felt it physically and I could see it, and something happened then.
Mm.
So that kind of set the tone of like, ooh, there's something so much more than this. And then exactly 2.5 years later, it's when I had my NDE.
Wow. And how premature was he? How
Oh, he was almost 10 and a half weeks early. So I
wow.
went into preterm labor with him just after my third trimester. And it was like he was so ready to be born. I had a really difficult pregnancy. It's a condition called HELP, and I had it with both pregnancies. So toxemia happens, with some pregnancies, but it went into a life-threatening condition.
Wow.
HELP is an acronym that stands for hemolysis, low liver enzymes. Let's see, hemolysis, HELP. Hemolysis, elevated liver enzymes, and low platelets. And so it's a life-threatening condition for both the mother and the child. So they actually had to induce him to save him and me, because I could have died, he could have died. So it was a risk that was taken. And so they went from trying to prevent me from having him to having to induce the labor. And then that started to happen also with my daughter. And so he was 10 and a half weeks early, about 10 weeks, just about. And then she was about 3.5 weeks, which really isn't like she was more considered full term. So
Mm.
more like around 4 weeks early, about 3.5 by the time I had her.
Oh wow. Okay.
Hmm.
That one, so that one wasn't as complex. She didn't have to go in the incubator or anything like that.
Luckily not. No, she was born tiny, but she was okay and considered to be, pretty much full term. And so she didn't have a lot of complications, thank goodness.
Yeah, no, definitely. Wow, that's so at that moment you already started. So that was the first time you had like this really big experience, right?
Yeah. I
And
knew
so,
that there was like something more. Like I was shaken, and it was out of the need of survival for my child.
mm,
That it like something inside of me out of instinct was ignited, because like I could not even imagine my child not surviving, because he was in the neonatal intensive care, because he was born so tiny, and because of the condition I couldn't even see him for 3 days. So he was due on like late February, and I had him on Christmas Eve.
oh
So
wow,
yeah,
so
he was
that
born
wow,
on. Hmm.
that has
So
a
he
lot of significance then. So
Oh yeah.
there was a reason.
Yeah, Christmas Eve he was born. Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Oh, huge significance.
yeah, yeah.
So
So wow, that's
going
amazing.
back to our other conversation, makes a lot of sense.
Definitely.
Yeah, Christmas Eve.
Wow, that's amazing. Okay, so because first it just seems like, oh wow, and then so with that added to it, I guess things happen as scary as it was. I guess things happen how they're supposed to, right? And
Yes.
so after that, did you in between that experience and then the complications with the birth, and then so was your daughter born after your son?
She was.
How much
So
after?
2.5 years. So he was born in December, Christmas Eve in 97, and then she was born in June 5th, 2000. So
Oh,
I died June 5th, 2000. And it was not because of her birth. It was actually because of Um, well, because I had such complicated pregnancies, they didn't even want me to have her. And
wow,
they did not want me to. So I was like, I'm having her. Like, that's not even an option. And
wow,
so I saw a specialist, an OBGYN, a specialist that actually specialized in complicated birth. So there was a lot of touch and go, a lot of care that I had to take for myself. And then when it got to the point where my body just couldn't, so we had already made arrangements that I was going to have a tubal ligation. I was already going to be in the hospital. I could not risk having another child, putting myself at risk. And because I like between both having that HELP condition with both of them.
Wow.
And so I died while I had that NDE 3 hours after her birth. And so they kept the epidural. I had an epidural because it's an induction. It's a fast and fierce thing where most women like take like, anywhere to, go through their natural process. When it's induced, it's falsely imposed and it's like they concentrate it within 3 hours, like and sometimes even faster. And so I was given an epidural to help with all of the physical things. They kept the catheter in my back
Mm.
because of the scheduled tubal ligation. So I was supposed to be 100% awake, alert, totally aware of the whole thing. It was just like having a cesarean, which means that they're totally, awake and they're just numb. But I ended up having a reaction to the anesthesia.
Oh,
So
wow.
the anesthesiologist was in the birthing room because the birthing room is the same as the recovery room. But because I was going into surgery, I had to be wheeled to a different location, a different floor in the hospital. So the anesthesiologist came in with the catheter still in my back from, about 3 hours earlier, gave me a dose of it. And the difference with an epidural and a spinal block is that they pierce that protective sheath within the spinal cord. So they pierce it, and the numbing, the anesthesia is supposed to block all of the signals from that point of the spine down.
Mm.
So they can do all kinds of crazy things and not even feel it. So that's supposed to be just blocking signals to the brain, no pain. Well, that either was either too much anesthesia and either too high that it stops function. So my lungs and my heart stopped.
Wow.
So they had to, while en route, because the last thing that I remember was the anesthesiologist asking me in, my married name at the time, Martinez. I'm now Gurulé, my maiden name. But she was just saying, I think, are you okay? And I just remember looking at to the side and seeing my mom holding my daughter and thinking like she's going to be okay. And then I lost consciousness. And as they were wheeling me out of the room down the hall, and then the next awareness that I had was actually like, well, that's so strange. Why are these people in our way? Like we're like that's weird that they have two of us like trying to get to this and there was chaos. And then as I saw, I was like, well, whoa, like that's me.
Oh,
So
wow.
I was actually like hovering and seeing all of this commotion, not realizing it. And I was watching myself being wheeled in all of this. And that was the awareness I had. And then the next thing I had was an awareness of being um, inside of the operating room as they were trying to resuscitate me. And then there's that. Then the whole experience began.
Wow.
Mhm.
So how would in that moment are you aware, like spiritually, you are aware that okay, I'm out of my body right now? Like what exactly is going on like as you're watching yourself?
Well, first of all, was like, well, why are these people in my way? Like, what is that? That this is so strange. Like the disconnect of it. And then the first thing was like, oh my God. Then the awareness in the room of the chaos, I did not have any care or connection to the body. I was
Oh,
just
wow.
watching. I didn't care that I had just had a child, but I was just like this dissociated, disassociated feeling, like not connected to what was even happening. And I remember like as I'm looking at it and watching all of this chaos, I had this feeling as if I was hovering, looking down over myself from my head to my feet. And so as I was looking down as like kind of at this whole experience of not connected and even feeling relief, honestly. I was
Wow.
going through one of the most difficult things that I was facing at that time. And it was difficult. And I had this sense of relief. And it felt like this sense of freedom I can't explain. No connection and just being like, like relief and freedom. And I guess with that awareness is I didn't travel through a tunnel, but I had this awareness of this pinpoint, the opposite of like a tunnel, like a pinpoint of like dark. It was actually a pinpoint of light.
Oh wow.
That instead of it, that as I was hovering over myself, it felt as though I was like turning over because I was disconnecting from all that below. So it felt like turning over and kind of lifting, but
Mm,
not, I didn't go anywhere. It was like the whole room just seemed to consume, like in this white that started and just started to, yeah, consume the entire space.
wow.
Yeah. Oh.
And so from that moment, like what exactly, so they never took you anywhere, like no beings appeared or anything, like, hey, this is what's going on, or
Well, in that time, like this whole consuming space of just white, like all of a sudden it felt like it was like the brightness of a million suns, but it didn't burn
mm,
my eyes.
oh wow.
I could hear this like most incredible angelic music, but there were no instruments and no singing. I could get this presence of like this, a feeling of presence, but didn't have any vision or image of around me. It was like I could feel the air around me like a blanket of like this most pure love
Mm,
that I could ever imagine. Like any kind of love that we can imagine here on earth multiplied, oh God, infinite.
mm,
Like a kind of love that we have not experienced here. Okay. And in that moment, I was in this vast place of like just this consuming of light. And I was feeling like, wow, like this is heaven.
oh okay.
And but I didn't have in then this like beings in front of me. I didn't see like my loved ones or anything like that. In this place of feeling this love, like in the distance, as if I was trying to focus my eyes, it seemed like larger than life. I could see the bodice of like someone that looks so beautiful, like angelic,
Mm,
like this energy of love, unlike anything I've ever described, and like this angelic being, but it wasn't angelic. So as I'm trying to look, I'm piercing through and I recognize that it's like has this most beautiful image of the Blessed Mother.
oh,
And this the what drew me most was the Immaculate Heart. I was drawn to this heart space. And it's like she's translucent, even transparent, but like I could see this form. And then I these fires in their hearts. And I say they because what I began to recognize is there was like a blue flame, also with this red flame, but this piercing white in between. And they were like this dancing image. And I'm like looking at it, and what I recognize it's like the Immaculate Heart combined with the Sacred Heart of Jesus. And then as I'm looking through, it's like I can see larger than she, an image also of he, like translucent, also like a transparent. But I knew that that white light was even greater. And so from that space, I had this whole like communion, like this connection, this like conversation, but like not a conversation with words, like instant, but like eternal. It is, I have no description for it. And I was being told, like, in this place of with love, of like, am I not supposed to be there? And that, like, I'm being told, like, I wanted to be here and I didn't understand. And so I was given an opportunity to go through this whole other experience because nothing is ever done by force.
oh
If we all do things by choice, even when we do it without our informed consent, that we things happen in life because we go along with it. Nothing is ever done. The most sacred and sanctified thing in the universe is our free will and choice.
wow.
That I had to understand that. And so I was given this opportunity to understand it. So with that, there was like this entire other experience that began to happen from that first original rather than going back right then and there. It was this whole, what I call like this 4-part healing process that happened on the other side that still feels like it's currently happening. And that's a lot to explain.
Yeah. And so at that moment there's no concept of time anymore? Like, did it feel like,
No, no time. Mhm.
but like in human terms or thoughts, would you have thought like, oh, this is you're there for a long time, or
Yes, it felt like I was there for a lifetime.
oh
It
wow,
felt like I was there for an eternity. And like this whole entire process that happened feels like I lived this whole life already. Like it and so the this four-part thing that happened was like the first understanding of, okay, let's look at your life review. What's here, what's happened in this integrative process. And it was these two parts happened together, like this life review, looking at all of these realities, right? All of these things, flash, 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 flash. And it's like it could pull out like in like these spades of shade, like sheets. And like you can pull one time and like cast it on the screen and engage in it and see it. Like sometimes it short circuit me because I'm looking at it like with such humanistic pain because these imprints are still fresh. And then so when that would happen, like when I was experiencing something with, a person who hurt me, a perpetrator, and then trying to
mm,
experiencing it and like literally like feeling too much of the human imprint, then like this other process together, like these other beings, there was always one that was with me through the whole thing. But through these different four parts, there would be like one being that would seem to also like almost be three. It was like, I don't know how to explain it. Three beings, but I knew that they operated as one. Too hard to explain. But it was like this life review council looking at it, understanding. And then this other healing. So like as I call it short circuit, the human imprint couldn't figure it out. I would be taken to, I call like this like healing temple, like immersed in these healing this so that energy I described in the beginning with this like feeling of love, like you can feel the air. Imagine that concentrated in a pool of like this
mm,
this liquid light of like pure love. And it felt like this acidic process that would take away the imprints and the pain and help me kind of figure this out. Now, I'm describing this like as if I remember this all from beginning to end, like all right away, right?
uh,
I want to just say in this very moment be, that I had to understand how to work it afterwards. It's like I would have these like it was really PTSD after my NDE. And then I would have these visions of these things that I'm describing. And then I would have to figure it out, work it, and like I see it in my mind. And like I would find myself there.
oh
Like
wow,
even while I came back, I would learn how to like bridge myself. And it felt like, oh, as if I could see it. Like I would actually like go back to that place. So I learned how to work with my NDE. Every single one of us are anchored already on the other side. The greater, bigger part of us is already there. It's only our consciousness and our awareness that is here. I didn't understand that at the time.
mm.
So even though I'm describing this as if it's in chronological order, as like, oh, I had all this memory and it worked out perfect. Oh no, I had to freaking figure it out. I literally would have flashes of these things because as I was doing the review, it's traumatizing. As I'm going through this healing, getting the healing of it. So when I would go to sleep after my NDE, I would even be kind of fearful because I would like be like, okay, I hope I don't have a nightmare tonight, and it was these flashes. And what I understood is I was still straddled in these two places, trying to acclimate and even get fully back here. And then I've learned how to work it. So I know it's a lot to explain, but that's how it's worked for me.
No, it makes sense, but it was interesting how you said even on the other side you were still anchored to this place then. So
Yeah.
that's
Like,
pretty, because you how you said that in the beginning, first you disconnected, so you felt completely detached, but then once you started experiencing things on the other side, you were still anchored
well,
somehow.
when we go through the life review, like we're literally looking at and processing it because all of this is information. It all serves the whole. We're here for a reason to understand how to apply, these things that we know at the soul level. So when we're going through that life review and we're not shown it, it's not being told like a judgment, like we're standing in front of somebody looking at it for us and saying, look what you did. We're actually looking at it at ourselves.
Oh,
And so those human imprints that we're looking at it is because we're like, how did I do in that moment? What was the decision being made? How could I have done that differently? When this pain happened, what did he do? What was he thinking? Okay, let me project myself in his experience. Let me see everything from that. And that's a mind warp. So, like, we're looking at all of the information. We're data collectors. We are going through life and experiencing exactly what we set out. And then mine was a course correction because I veered off in a different direction. Mine was like the reset. And so, like, having to unwind and unlearn those things. So, when we do that life review, we're really much in the humanistic part. And that's where we get the information. And the soul plane of Earth is very unique because the ability to have the emotions in the way that we do here. That's also very rare and not so common in in other systems in the universe. Not to the level, because I was even shown that the level that a person can enrage here can obliterate life forms in other realms because of the extent of the energy that we give off. So we're
that,
powerful.
yeah, that's amazing. Like that you said. So for some reason, we have more anger even in this planet than in
Oh
other.
yeah.
Why? Why is that? Why? What is
Ooh.
it about this?
So the Earth School and Earth School, okay, people have called it that before. So here's the thing. We are eternal souls, eternal. We're not just tethered. Some of us are tethered here and originate here in the earth plane. We're created here soul wise. Like, but we are eternal. I want that's kind of a heavy thing to explain. We are eternal souls, and that souls have been tethered here for a huge amount of time. But we are eternal and have had experiences through multiple, but here on this earth plane, there has been this incredible overtaking of our spiritual energy. All the things that we think are junk DNA is not junk. All the things that are dormant in our brain and in our brain is not dormant and it's not junk. That there has been something actually confiscated from us because we hold this divine spark. Not all creatures hold this. And I literally do say this, Omar, is that even angels bow down to that which is human because we carry something that is so sacred that has the potential of becoming this soul and spirit fused being.
Mm,
So imagine the power of that, okay? So this other species, without having to go down this deep, dark rabbit hole of conspiracy stuff, there's so much truth on the planet that there is a confiscation of souls upon the planet for other purpose, a
mm.
darker agenda. And so there have been souls who have incarnated here to help infiltrate it from the inside out, okay? And so, why does all of this stuff happen? I want to get to back to your original question because I go down these rabbit
No,
holes,
but
right?
that's beautiful. Thank you for yeah. So
It's dense here. It's dark because like there is this other energy. It's like our world has been terraformed. So again, we are such powerful beings that if we were able to connect with the spirit of creation within us, oh my gosh, what we can create in the universe is profound.
mm,
If we're able to be in the energy of divinity. So collaboration, cooperation, clean energy, clean air, everything in unison where there's no opposition, like where everything is in balance and in harmony. That is like what we would call this paradise, right? This is what has been always told in prophecy that this is what we're supposed to be. This is what we're supposed to return to. It has to do with souls inside, okay? So this darker energy on the planet is there to use it for its own. So again, imagine all the rage that every person has, the anger, the sadness, the fear, the doubt, the frustrations, and we use that energy that is inside in those darker realms. It's like a terraforming for this
mm.
darker vibration that fuses like this dense energy that they need to survive in. It's their vibe. That's not
Wow.
what we were meant to be. So, like the movie, like The Matrix, like there's so many different movies out there that show truth in plain sight. When
Mm,
it says we were confiscated for energy for this other species, that's pretty much truth. So we have so much power within that don't even realize it, that we carry something so sacred inside that is hidden, and that's what we are. So it's dense here, but we're here to overcome all of that. So it's all coming to the surface. Everything that's happening on the planet right now is bringing in this big change. We're all part of it. Hmm.
And so with that, what you said, because I've often used this, and then sometimes I think like, is it right what I'm saying? But basically, it is that then, right? Like a war. It is a war.
It's a war for our souls. I
Yeah,
literally use that term.
yeah, yeah.
It's
I
a war
always,
for our souls. Absolutely. Hmm.
and so no, and it's funny because I'll try not to make this too long. But even I was taking this class like in college, right? And it had, so even just on a human level, it was like this extra credit stuff, right? So I would do these extra credit things for like this class, and then so I would have to read from like a science journal, right? It had to be something like that was what was it? What is it? Like a proven science journal, right? That's was legit, in other words, like a legit science journal. So one of them, I gave this little speech about how I guess they had created this drug to like make people more giving, more this and that, right? And even with that drug, and they saw, like, let's say someone wouldn't give money to a homeless person, all of a sudden, boom, they're generous, right? So they literally created a drug to make people more generous. But when they did that, they literally found that 5% of the population, even with the drug, just had no emotion. So what does that make you think of? Before, it used to be, it wasn't the 1% rich, it was like the 5%. I remember that they used to, it was like a little bigger, and I was like, wow, what a coincidence that because really no one gets to that rich level. And it's not to hate on people that create wealth, but at that level, it's like someone killing the environment, and you're just like drilling for oil. You have, it's a certain cold, like heartless thing that people don't get, like the amount of people that you're killing or animals or stuff. There's this coldness. So I was like, wow. So there's even these beings here. Who are they? And I even thought of terms like in that, like, what are they? What is their DNA? That 5%, no matter what, even with a drug to make you more giving, like they're just cold already. So,
Hmm.
and there's no praying like, oh, please make them have a heart. No, they just don't have a heart. Like there's something about these beings.
These
And
beings.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So even
I
then,
wish,
yeah. So go
yeah.
ahead, go ahead, go ahead.
I was shown this analogy once, okay, that what has happened on the planet is this confiscation of the divinity that we're supposed to be.
Mhm.
And it's like these souls that have been here have been like replicated, okay?
Mm,
So what I was shown is like, imagine like out of a printer comes this pristine, crisp, clear copy, okay? It's original, crisp. And then you take a copy and then you go and make a copy, okay?
mm,
And then you take the copy and make a copy of the copy. And then you've like, so basically like you whittle it down, and it's like they're broken down, and it's like there's this confiscation of their soul, of like their energy. And there is an actual other species that is actually on the planet that does have a different DNA, and then that's just barely starting to come out, especially now that they have like ancestry.com and like all of these other things. They're starting to discover so much more about the truth of ourselves, that we actually, there are some that are just slightly different. But with this confiscation of like this deterioration of the body that contains, and so we're trying to get back to this original pristine source. And so like, if we can imagine that there's even, oh God, I don't know why this is coming up right now, Ahmad, but it is like, I have this image of like even holographic people,
oh
you
wow.
know, that people like that are like falsely created, that don't contain, the actual soul. That's a new image on me. Oof. Yeah, just because we're asking the question.
Mm.
Wow.
No, and no, and I've already heard about like some kind of soulless beings, and even that just seems
Oh,
weird. But I've heard it already, so
okay.
so
There
so
you
I've
go.
yeah, I've heard
I
about
just had the image in my mind because like literally I'm seeing like they're hollow, like holographic, but hollow. So it's like it's a kind of a hologram, call it but hollow. So there's something a little bit more than that, which is ugh, I don't, okay, yeah. all of a sudden I'm thinking hollow, and I'm seeing like imagery of what looks um like military. I am seeing military people wearing like uniforms, carrying him on the backs, and then like they're hollow. And then I don't know even why there's a connection there having to do with halo and hollow. I'm just gonna leave it at that, but I'm just seeing something so massive and deep that is like purpose and infiltration, but I'm gonna leave it at that. That's just deep.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah. And I was just thinking like, wow, did we even like I know we jumped around and I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, how did we or
I
where
don't
did
know.
yeah, because yeah, I don't even remember because I know we are talking about the NDE, you experiencing the things you did on that side and somehow, you know, you're still
Working
anchored
it.
in here and here being anchored over there. I
Yes,
kind of
that's
wanted to keep going down that rabbit hole, but okay, we'll just circle
yeah,
back
yeah.
around to because I guess to get to the point of how you started experiencing this, right? So as you came back, you're trying to figure out what just happened. You're trying to figure out what you were shown, this life review, this light you saw. I guess you were seeing beings that, like you said, it was three and one, and somehow they were there
Mhm.
guiding you through this experience. So once you're figuring this out, like at what point do you, I guess, start seeing things? Did you start telling people about this experience? Like what happened from there?
Okay. So the first person I told was my mama, and it was right after it happened. She came in, the procedure ended up taking about maybe half hour, 45 minutes longer. They must have also given me the full anesthesia. I don't know because of course I had this recovery period after. They ended up having the tubal ligation. So my mama is the first one who knew, and she just took one look at me. And all I remember telling her, once I came out, it was like I could not even move. It felt like I was paralyzed. And I
Mm.
told her it felt like I was being buried alive. And
Oh,
all one single tear just streaming down, and and it felt like somebody cradling my head and just whispering into my ear, like it's like you're okay, it's gonna be okay. So really quick, I want to explain like so this two-part thing of like the life reviews and the healing. Then I had this process where I still feel like I'm there, like I said. And so in this process of, yeah, coming back, I would have with this PTSD event of like not knowing what the heck happened to me. I would have what I called at the time these violent visions or dreams, nightmares.
mm,
But then I began to pray and talk to my mama about it, just like there's something happening to me. And then I ended up also with my grandma Hinoveva, my mom's mom, and she said something to me that was so profound because of my upbringing, being taught and shown that like we don't mess with these things, and so pray about it. So like both of them counseling me, okay, mija, just hold God in your heart, be at the center, let that be and guide you. So I prayed for a long time for it to go away.
oh,
So I was selfish in the beginning that I needed to just understand what happened to me. What am I seeing? What are these visions? What is this about? What's happening to me? And I went into depression for about a good 3 years.
oh,
Then
wow.
I even, yeah,
A
then
lot.
I even ended up having to um go to a doctor, and the doctor was wanting to actually, it was like four different doctors. And by the fourth one was like, okay, you're stressed, you're raising two kids, you're working full time. And I'm like, I didn't dare tell them that I was beginning to feel things and see things because my most beautiful uncle, my mama's brother, has been diagnosed schizophrenic.
Oh,
And so I'm very careful to like not be misdiagnosed.
mhm.
And so I went on the antidepressants and didn't really help because the key thing was that I had had this experience I couldn't figure out. And so that was the hardest part. And then so once we were able to really figure out and coming back how to work it, I made a moment and said, okay, God, since you're not taking this away from me, teach me. Teach me how to work it, teach me how to use it. And so it was about really connecting within myself in deep prayer and then really just wanting myself to feel better.
Mm.
And then spontaneously that like people were contacting me that I mean I worked full time. I'm normal, whatever that means. And then But people would start to be like, hey, you work with so and so and you talk to them. Can I talk to you? And it's like God had a plan bigger than me. I never had intentions of ever becoming a soul reader or doing any of this stuff, that it occurred on its own. And so once I finally settled into, okay, this isn't going away, and then getting over like this isn't the darkness, because I was like, I knew what I was feeling. I felt connection, and I finally, I didn't even have language for it then, Omar. Like now I understand that there's even Christian mystics. They have, and even Jewish mystics and Jewish mysticism and Christian mysticism, where the people like even Saint Teresa of Avila like would have these deep experiences, spiritual, where they have these deep connections. And so I began to allow myself that experience, begin to attune with it, pray within, and then really be guided. So then it developed on its own, that I began to have this sense of peace. So I was like, even after the two-part healing, the life reviews and then the healing part in the submersion and the liquid light, I call it. There was also like what I still now recognize is like working with like a counsel, which we all have. We all have divine wise counsel. We all have this ability to have that inner guidance and voice. To me, I literally just feel like I'm literally there. I feel like I bridge and coexist in these two places and realms, that sometimes I really fully feel here and sometimes I fully feel there. And it's kind of a strange thing in meditation, especially out of body, almost a daily thing. So
Oh,
like learn to work with it is what I call it. And that with that's a really, really powerful. That's when you asked me the question is like, how long did it feel like I was there? Feels like an eternity that I'm still there. So like if I wanted to, I could like really go deep into meditation and like really push myself and like literally feel like I am there. And then the very last thing that made me decide to come back was being shown like this most beautiful image of like this young galaxy, this young universe, better yet, with multiple galaxies and our solar system. And then in the midst of all of this, look like this most beautiful valley of like
wow.
these rolling hills. And in between the valleys were like these seas of flowers. And I understood that all of these flowers were all souls. And
Mm,
I'm standing at the top of this ridge of this like valley, and was like being told that they're all souls, that somehow we were all interconnected and that I was supposed to like help them somehow. And that if you can imagine like every color of red, but every red is different. Every blue, like every sea and colors that you can't even imagine, just in like all moving like in a sea. It was the most incredible thing. And then to realize that we're so much more than we possibly realize. It was like a sea of souls, like a family of souls that were all connected. And then I had this like greater image of like, wow, I do want to serve. I do want to be here. Like an awareness that I chose this. I
mm.
want to be here at the time of the great shift. I want to be here at the time because I was part of it before, to like I want to be part of it now to actually experience it. There's a wait list for souls to come here and incarnate, to be able to be here and part of this.
Really?
It's incredible.
You were showing
Oh,
that there's actually a wait list for people
oh yeah.
for souls to come?
For souls to come because of what's happening right now.
Wow.
Like we are emerging. All of this blanketed cloak of darkness that we've been under is now all coming up to the surface. All of these systems are breaking, and it creates chaos and destruction in the moment of it. But in order to create new, it has to. So souls are like wanting to be here, to be part of this. Absolutely. But when we get here, we have to abide by the rules of the realm. And the rule of the earth is you don't remember who you are. So we don't remember that we have this grand God spark within us with a plan to help. And, we just come here and we experience, and then it's all taken away. And then we struggle through life because we haven't been taught this soul technology that was once available on the planet, and it's now coming to the surface.
So
Mhm.
why is that part of the contract that we're like were you ever shown like why is that? Why
Hmm.
can't we remember? Or
Yeah.
obviously for some it starts. I've noticed that like with traumas, I think most people with like NDEs or just certain traumas, because although I didn't really have like that, I could remember that I died and came back. I did have a lot of life and death situations growing up, and I think all those traumas started waking everyone with like a wake up, like getting shook up,
Yes.
and just
Hmm.
keep getting more in tune and more in tune and more in tune. So
Hmm.
why is it? Why is that? Yeah, why is that part of the?
Well, and the hardest part is the difficult thing on the earth is that how it has to happen through trauma, and
Mm,
it shouldn't. The thing is that we are born pristine, fresh from the other side, all full awareness, least language, least mobility, least anything, right?
mhm,
And so we go through this process, and it's part of the system, okay? So we incarnate here, and some souls, if they're lucky, they're brought into environments that maintain and sustain the God spark inside.
mm,
Okay. The rest of us, the majority of us, 90% of us have been so from past generation to generation to generation of how we bring up our young. Don't quit thinking, stop imagining, get back to work. We take away, literally peel, or we don't peel it away. We cannot destroy that which is indestructible. We hide it. Okay. So what happens is like shove that thing back down inside of you. Don't let that thing come out. That what makes you think that's anything is there. Get back to work. You've got it. And then we hide it. We create imprints. We create layers of perceptions and stories that we've experienced. And what I call the first original lie. The first original pain that was created that starts this subconscious thing that we experience until we unlearn it. So
mm,
why does that happen? It's part of the setup of here being on earth. So imagine this. Imagine taking like the most greatest adventure, but having already done it every single day for your whole life. Like you're like, it's no big deal. Why were you going to
mm.
want to do it? Imagine wanting to go see a movie and like, but you already know all the parts, you know all the characters, you've seen it 100 times. Why would you want to go see the movie? Right? So you want the excitement. The thing is that the most critical here on earth is the rediscovery. I call it the remembrance. Okay.
Mm.
So we have to remember, but we have to destroy and dismember. Okay. Everything that we're not, so that we can actually remember, reassemble what we actually are. So, yeah, that's the grand adventure. This is so imagine it's like this is this is the ultimate. Like so for those that are adventurers of like, oh, let's go and let's go and hike up, Mount Everest or
Okay.
go, because that's what we are. So souls who choose to incarnate here are like, oh yeah, I've geared up for this. I've trained for this mission. I'm ready. Okay, I'm not going to forget who I am. I'm going to be able to do all of this. And then we get here and we're like, what? Like, wait a second, hold on. I didn't think it was going to be this hard. Okay. So, yeah, big souls, souls that are incarnate now, powerful. Hmm.
And so back to like see like how you said, like I guess we do it to ourselves, right? Once we're here we do it to ourselves. Oh, don't imagine, don't this or that. So back to other entities, like how far back does it go? At what point did something start that?
Mm.
Like have were you ever
Pre-Atlantean
shown that?
times. Yes. So it's even pre-Atlantean times. It's almost like the history of the planet.
Mm,
So there is like, so people may have heard of like the Anunnaki. There's the Sumer. There's like other like ancient. Okay. So, like, this is even prior to like 300,000 years ago. So, but this current cycle, okay.
mm,
So, if you can imagine that we have the earth and it wobbles and it takes, with this spin, like 26,000 years for it to go through its full cycle. Okay.
mm,
So, it takes approximately 26,000 years. Well, there's something that occurred midway through that cycle, and it serves purpose.
mm.
Everything has a rhythm and a cycle in the universe. It does. So it has a darkened period and then a lightened period. So we're now entering into the lightened period. Okay.
Oh,
So this last phase has been like the last origination about 26,000 years ago. When we actually follow back about 13,000 years ago, which is this other great freeze on the planet. That was like the intention to literally obliterate the species on the planet to get rid of us because of what we were actually being created. That's when this other planetary system, we also have false gravity being emitted from like the moon and other planetary things. We even have other species that are like even working this, like so cosmic beings and soul beings, earth beings. Like it's a big, huge thing. Like there's so much more to our reality that we can even possibly imagine. Mm-hmm.
So so at one point, were there already beings here, and then they came and kind of hijacked everything and started?
Yes. Yeah. They literally were. So there. Well, here's the interesting part: is that they like all of the Kuiper belt, they call it in our own solar system, which is all this like asteroid material. They're wondering like, well, what happened in this area? Well, there was a destruction of a planetary system in that. That's why there's all of that. There's so another planetary system brought here, kind of trapped into this realm. They were brought here through, again, this intergalactic thing, still souls, okay, and then trapped here. Their time works different. It's like so interdimensional in realms of energy, okay? There's even like subterranean, there's all kinds of stuff. So being trapped here, we part of it was like the good saying, okay, part of this, let's just keep them here until we can figure out what to do. And then they tapped in and infiltrated, confiscated, tapped in, and like was able to wait its time. And so created its own system here. Okay. And then so now we're in the process of breaking up what all was all created. So they are very patient. This has been created for this last like 13,000 years, which has had to do with all of the systems of today. You know, which is all about the original lie is that fear. Okay. They exist in that realm and that again terraforming of energy. Imagine what kind of energy we would give off if we tap this into pure love, unconditional. Okay, that paradise. Well, we are witnessing and experiencing what has been done using that same energy for fear. We're
Mm.
experiencing it on the planet. So we're here to break it up. Hmm.
And so, I mean, it's very obvious. It's like, even with movies and everything, just the amount of violence and always, all these, there's always these movies. I never got that. Like, who just says, like, yeah, I want to make this movie of like the planet's being destroyed, or there's this, or that. It's just always this chaos. So, do you feel that that's tied into these beings, or like, or is that
Yeah.
just us as humans, or is it like these beings
No,
definitely?
it's tied into these beings. So like when we like all these movies that we see, okay, that there's inspiration from it somewhere.
Hmm.
Like we might think of like, oh, I just imagined it, I dreamed it up, but it literally is all within the ethers. Anything and everything that can is does exist. Even Beethoven would even describe it. It's like I did not write my symphony. He's
Hmm.
like it was channeled to me from the ethers. Okay, so even creative people who are writing their books, writing these screenplays for movies that are depicting like these big intergalactic things. They're tapping into truth. They're tapping into and being channeled and funneled and putting it into plain sight. That like these are literally worlds and realms. So, Star Wars, like all of these different major movies are tapping into a part of it. There is a federation. There is this intergalactic. There's an infinite number of interplanetary systems like we are so much more than we can possibly even imagine. So they're tapping into truth, and there's two parts to this. So they're sprinkling out the truth enough because enough people are feeling it within inside themselves already. So they put a movie out to just be like, "Oh yeah, let's put you back to sleep because you saw the answer that you're seeking in a movie." It's false. Go back to sleep. Don't think about it, and so we think of like, damn, this thing that I'm feeling, like I feel this, and they're like, oh, you saw it in a movie. It's imagined. It's not real. When it is. Hmm.
That makes no, because there's been things like sometimes things I've told people for years, and then all of a sudden they make a movie, and it's like when I was telling them, they didn't even care, and then once the movie comes, oh, look at this, I'm like, yeah, I used to tell you, and then they're like the same, they're treating it like, no, but it's just the movie, like even like, so that made perfect sense. It's almost like, I hate to use the word, almost like a spell being cast, but it does feel like something
It
just,
is.
yeah.
Oh, it is. Omar, you hit the nail on the head. There are hidden gems of movies, okay? One of them is actually Tomorrowland. At the very, very end of that movie, Tomorrowland, they actually talk about a broadcast system. They actually talk about these two realms and dimensions. Instead of going up and out into this other dimension, they actually go in the inner earth into another dimension,
Mm,
and that they're literally broadcasting all of this. I'm telling you, people have got to check it out because, again, they hide it in freaking plain sight.
that's
Plain sight. And exactly what you're talking about is exactly that. So we get an instinct. You've been talking about it a while, again, because you're very, very aware. You're already ahead. Okay. So the lamplighter. And so, like, yeah, you're like, I've been telling you that for 10 years.
yeah.
But they still, and again, they just wipe away the power by saying, go back to bed. It's just go
Mm.
back to sleep. There's nothing here. Yeah.
And
Mm-hmm.
just I just recently posted a video, and it was like I was woken up on purpose at that time. Like I woke up like at midnight. I fell asleep watching like that show Friends or something. So when I woke up, I was gonna click to go to the movie channels. And then as I'm going down to the movie channels, I passed by, it was like a cartoon, and it said Hamster and Gretel. And it reminded me of Hansel and Gretel. So I was like, oh, okay, let me stop there, and it got my attention. And then it was about like UFOs. It was this cartoon, and I was like, so is that here? Do you hear that beeping?
I
Oh, I
hear
think
it.
it's okay. I think it's, the garbage truck or something.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no, but because I have my window open because it's so hot. So okay, there it stopped. It was distracting me. But so this is a cartoon, and I happen to see, and I know that in the spiritual community they think of it differently, right? Like with numerology and everything. But so there's this little hamster, and it's already bad. He's gambling, right? Because this is a Disney cartoon. And after I did the research and I saw it was #1 for ages 6 to 11. So this is for 6 to 11-year-olds, and it's showing a little hamster gambling. Then it was so quick, but I caught it and I hit rewind when he won. Though his winning hand happened to be 666. I was like, what? And I rewinded it, and then after I took a picture of it to post it because like I told you, I made a little video about it. It was actually King 666. So that was his winning hand. King 666. And I get it. When I
Wow.
told someone right away, they're, oh, well, numerology, 666. I was like, I know, I get it, but why would you put that in a cartoon for ages 6 to 11? Like, what subliminal thing are you sending? Is it that King
Yes.
666? You see what I'm saying? Like,
It is.
yeah.
And all of that. So this is exactly what I'm talking about. Ahmad. They're pristine, but then we are brought into the system of things and then it takes away. And then they literally infiltrate the mind of children to plant that original seed of fear.
Mm,
Okay. And then they're brought up into families, and it's no fault of our own, is that we perpetuate the same things that we taught, that we were learned. That we were taught, that we learned. Yeah. And so, you know what I mean?
yeah.
So, like, we continue the same cycles. And that's exactly it. There's so much more. And when we literally see what is embedded in children's movies, children's stories, and like all these false signals and emissions and like desensitization, and like I said, that in reading this Australian psychological journal, what they called it soul murder. It's
Oh,
because it is literally to disconnect souls from that pure, most original source. So that's what we have, a huge responsibility, when we're bringing in children. But at the same time, too, they agree to it, and if we all agree to it, we all know what we're coming into. There's no hidden agendas. The thing is that the most difficult thing is because I had a hard time with this. I
mm.
was like, how dare they? The first time I heard is like, we create everything, every single thing. And I read this in a book, and I think I threw it across the room. I want to cuss at the moment, but I was like literally like, fuck you. Like I threw it across the room because I was like, the frustration of it. I was like, I didn't create this pain. And then, of course, working through it after the NDE and going through all of this stuff of like, oh, yeah, I created it prior to my coming here.
Mm.
My soul knows. Like my in my humanness, of course, I don't choose it. None of us want to choose pain, but the soul knows. So going back to one of the questions is like, why are we even here and why is it so difficult? I mean, it is like literally elite souls incarnate here because it is one of the most um, critical realms where we can get trapped. You know, just by
Oh wow.
creating belief systems, we can trap ourselves here. By believing that we are trapped and having to constantly pay back karma, to constantly ever create eternal balance, if that is a belief that is created within the soul, and it is a belief because we don't have an abrupt ending, an abrupt beginning after our passing. We are consciousness. So if we create these expectations of our experience, we're going to be bound to, because again, it's not an abrupt thing. We are at a continuation. So if a soul feels that they're going to experience a particular thing at a soul level, so someone might say, well, I'm an atheist. I had no expectation and I had this whole thing. Well, at the soul level, we do. That's different. Okay. Not consciously, at the soul level, whatever's in there. And so there has been like a confiscation. And so we can trap ourselves here. We can have these experiences that we don't intend, but the whole goal is like we're here to actually serve, connect to that most sacred, and then
So
yeah.
for those that, because that's a huge debate that I've heard, um, and it's funny because I even heard someone that I guess follows like I don't know if it's Christianity or more a Bible, like a Bible based religion, basically. And they, I guess I heard them say that they don't believe in karma, but that's even in the Bible. So for you, I guess for people that don't believe in, would you say you were showing that karma is a real thing?
Well, and it well, see, and here's the thing, is that we are eternal souls ever progressing, always.
Mhm.
That karma and dharma is a thing, but it's not what we think that it is. So they confiscate our belief of it. So I mean, I want to be very, very respectful here because I'm not too familiar with like the religions who really do follow this. But on the general like standpoint, for the masses that like the mass um, humans on the mass understand like this concept of karma, repayment of sins. Okay. So that's a simplified word of using it, but we even use it in other religions of like whenever there is like, oh, so other religions, if you're going to go to purgatory, you're going to be in this in between state before you ever move on. So like we create these scenarios. So
Mm.
what I've been shown is that like with souls on the other side that are in this, like there's even like a helping and assisting and a processing. Like for myself, I arrived on the other side, did not want to come back, and then in those moments I had access to the divine counsel, like what I call for to help me understand these things, so I can understand these principles, understand what we are, and then when I got here, it's not like again had all the oh I know it all. I had to remember. I had to work it just like everybody else. I had to understand, like overcome certain beliefs, really work with pain that I had, do the work. And then, but also knowing that there's something more. We have an inside connection. If we can follow that, then we can have an entire different experience. That's what we're meant to be here on the planet. That's why we're so excited to be here, is
Mm.
to learn that skill, is to be able to be an entire other experience on earth. Hmm.
So that, so for like what you were shown is that our one of our main reasons is just to learn, right? Like to.
Yeah, to apply the things we already know. Apply the things we already know. So if we're an eternal soul and say that a soul is learning patience, okay?
Mm.
So if soul is coming in and it's learning how to work cooperatively with flow of life, okay? And so our purpose is also going to be matched with our challenge, okay? And so as we're expanding our growth and applying the things that we know from the other side, then we're able to bring in those principles. So we have all this awareness, we have all knowing. So our being here on the earth school is like on the other side we train. We get like all of the awareness, we prepare for it, and then we come here to actually do it. Can
Mm.
we do it? You know, and then some of us get so overwhelmed because again, this is a dense place. This is one of the most difficult places to incarnate because of all of these, first of what's happened here, but then like all of the, yeah, the denser energies that are here and playing out. Hmm.
And I've heard, and also back to the movie thing, like they've shown, um, for example, I don't know if you remember a movie, I think it was called They or They Live with this actor. He used to be a wrestler, like Rowdy Piper. I think it was from the 80s. You remember
I
that movie?
just, I don't remember it, but it's crazy that you say this because I literally just came upon a clip of it on YouTube. So
Oh,
somebody posted a very short clip of it and I was freaked out. And there was one scene where like they're all in a room and they're talking about like how they're going to overcome and dominate the world. And then these two, Rowdy Roddy Piper.
yeah, that
Oh
was,
my God, oh my gosh, I just heard the name in my head. Okay. Um, where they literally was like, oh my God, they
yeah.
see us.
And while he
Yeah.
puts on these glasses and he could see them the way they really are. And so yeah, I was gonna ask, I guess if you've ever been able to see like beings, like see them how they really are behind whatever, you know?
Like when I feel and sense people, there's a like the best way I can describe it, it's like there have been times. So I have formal trainings, initiations, and apprenticeship in the shamanic tradition of Peru. Okay,
Oh, okay.
so I am a mesa carrier, and I do have. So I had a full practice, and when I would do these healing sessions in my mind's eye, I could literally see beings and things and entities. There's things that I don't prefer to like, but yeah, I can, and those do exist. And in one particular case, I was working with someone who had an enlarged and distended belly that had gone to multiple doctors, had MRI, CT scans, different medications and all these things. And as I'm working with the individual and I'm closing my eyes, and what I do is I imagine the person's body in light, just filled with light. But as I envisioned this in light, I saw this blob, and as I saw this blob, I was like, oof, okay. And so the best way I can describe it is like I literally called upon Archangel Michael, okay, for
Mm.
protection, which is actually to help. And it's not my responsibility to cause any harm or damage to anything. So I was like, well, let me release this thing and give it over so that it can be dealt with in whatever way is best for its good. Okay. So I literally, in my mind's eye, was going through this process, like I was describing with my son, this laser light. Well, I was doing something similarly to remove this thing. And she literally was like, hold on, hold on, hold on. She's like, I feel a pain. She's like, I don't know why, but I'm like cramping in my stomach. I wasn't even touching her. Not even touching her, not even doing anything. And then she was literally describing, so we had to have this whole discussion. And she was like, I have been everywhere. I've been seeing so many doctors. Nobody can describe it. And I've been feeling this, she says. So quite literally, like maybe I don't know, about a month after. So she followed up. We had a few, and then the stomach wasn't as distended. Like she literally was able to stop like two of the different kind of medications that she had. But I want to be very careful here. It's not like I have this ability. Oh no. It's that I saw something and I facilitated a process that I see that we have in this invisible realm. That's the most important thing. These things do exist.
Mm.
They do.
And I
Hmm.
guess that was gonna be my next question as far as like, because yeah, I mean, I haven't really, I don't think I've heard maybe one person I think that had an NDE talk about actually seeing like demons and all that. So I was gonna ask you, what's your, or what have you been shown as far as like all that, like
I
demons,
made a I
all
made a
that?
choice
Uh,
early on not to because it scared the heck out of me.
oh, okay.
So like for me, but I have a friend who is also a medium and is also able to see things that oof.
Mm.
I'll put it this way. When I was working with someone, I literally was like, okay, I'll call upon this and this is person I would will call on to walk in the realms of hell with me. Okay. That kind of protection. she's capable of seeing in incredible ways of far greater than I. For me, I've made the decision of like, yes, I can, but I choose not to be to see them in that way. So I sometimes see them as distortions. Best way I can
Oh,
say it is like in the movie Predator. Okay,
oh, okay.
where it's like I see it more of a distortion. I see an absence of light versus seeing their true. Now, if I wanted to, I could, but I don't because they're pretty horrific. Then the thing is here, what I want to be able to explain to is that there are those in that spectrum that they're part of one unified whole. They don't see each other as good and bad. They're very, very easily able to be seen, and they each serve. I don't know how to fully explain it. So these two energies, and there are some entities and other demons and things that are not what I'm speaking of. Okay, but like these two things do coexist, but we have to recognize that there is both. And it's not like they're like after us and like all this stuff. They're tied to emotion. So
Mm,
sometimes it's more like parasitic. If someone is like stewing in a place and always giving off a bad mood and always in an energy, like we literally attract them to us, and then they like feed off of us. And then they can even like try to provoke us into like getting a feed off of us, So it's like when we literally got to shake it off and do energy clearing and like literally because we're in a sea of energy. Imagine a barnacle attached to a whale, you
mm.
know, same thing. We live in an energetic world. We only see 6%, 5 to 6% of the visual spectrum, the
Oh, wow.
energy spectrum. There's a other 94% out there. Imagine butterflies seeing ultraviolet, you know. Imagine if we had that capacity, imagine what we could see. Now, there was this glass. I'm not even going to get the name of it right, but I came across another little video where it was shown that back in the, I don't know, early 1900s, they were trying to develop like night goggles, but they created some kind of film that the helicopter pilots and other beings that were using it were literally seeing demons.
Oh,
That they
wow.
could see demons and they were literally like shooting at each other and there's like some kind of blue glass that they created. I can't even remember the name. I briefly scrolled through it and I was like, wow, that an ability to see. And even I talk about how we plume off energy. Like whatever we emote, we plume off like a coronal mass ejection of the sun. A
Mm,
CME, we plume huge masses energy. So, like when we have an explosive, but when we have these overwhelming feelings of love, we ripple that out too. These are felt, these are seen, they're recognizable in these other invisible realms. And so when we plume off that energy, oh yeah, that's also within that realm of being able to see. hmm Same
wow.
vibration, soul energy.
Yeah. Wow, that's amazing. So all this began happening after your NDE, right? Like all this.
I know. I'm like, okay, our purpose for the talk, Ahmad, I can talk to you all day, man. Like, this is such an enjoyable conversation. Holy cow. I love the questions and just a gentle, like a cool conversation and having it in this way. So, yes, I had all of this after my NDE and it started off slow and small. I had to pray and how to work it to be comfortable, really work and know what I'm working with.
Mm,
Like, so I really, because all of this is out there and available, that I really do hold myself in. It's almost like a doctor's decree, of like first do no harm and first to myself, because
mm.
nobody's worth me what I call losing my soul. Nobody can lose it, but I can sure as hell have to pay back, so I will never mislead or misguide or any of that because I have to answer for that. So for me, my whole thing is, that it evolved in having to understand this over the last 23 years because it happened on June 5th, 2000. And my intention, I realized that from the very beginning is okay, God, if I could help one other soul not have to endure that like this kind of pain and struggle that I've had to, then I'm willing. And so by me just putting myself out there with that statement, it's created its own. So really working with it, understanding it, and then like as you've experienced, like the difference of soul reading, like it's really sensing and feeling what comes up with the individual. So I recognize now that this was all a setup of the soul.
Mm,
Like I had the whole reset, went through this and part of the design so that I can fulfill the purpose I'm supposed to be. So it was literally a reset and then the hard work of applying it all to get to where I was supposed to be in the first place. So
wow. And at any point were you shown that specifically, or you just already like everything kind of
shown that
unraveled?
specifically. I was shown that specifically. I've had an image in my mind, Omar, for probably like the last, especially 13 years of like all of this stuff coming to fruition. And at the time when I saw it, I was like, oh my God, like,
Mm.
how am I supposed to do all of this? Writing books, having like talks, like working with people. And I'm like, back then I was like, what? And so now, only now that it's like, oh, yeah, of course. And now it's all finally coming into play. All the way back then, I couldn't even see how where I was could even translate to where I am today. But it takes a lot of work and a lot of deep work, inner healing, and willingness to change. We want everything to stay the same, but no, we just gotta keep moving and keep going.
No, and see, you just made me think of no, and I didn't know you had, so you wrote books as well?
I'm actually in the middle of writing my first, well, two things. I'm writing my manuscript, but I am actually part of a Hay House authors program. And
Oh,
so, yeah, an author. So I am writing my first book proposal. So yes, I am a writer and I'm working. I've got 8 of them in my head, but at least the first one is actually getting on paper, the first 2 anyways.
no, that's beautiful. Congratulations.
Like you. So you give me motivation and inspiration for you to hear you say that you've written your two. That actually motivates me tremendously.
No, no,
Con-
well, I'm glad I could do it. No, no, thank you. And yeah, me is just imagine just me with my impatience. That would have probably been the better way to do it, right? Go to a publisher and all this and that. I was gonna self publish it, and I did it, and boom, and it's out, and that's it. So
Well, and I've
that's how.
actually heard that that's actually really good. My first intention is part of it, but I have intentions to self-publish several of them myself too. So that good for you. Yes.
I think just because when I was researching, I saw like I think there were a couple examples where I heard like someone was like shopping it out for like 6 8 months, and it's like wow. Once I heard that, I was like, yeah, I'm gonna do them. I'm just that impatient. I was like, I don't think I could sit around waiting, you know, six
Yeah,
to, 6 to 8 months just to
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 get it
hear,
out there.
yeah, to hear if okay, yes or no. So let me see what else was I, because I don't know how much time you have, but I know we've been talking for a long time now. Uh, in conjunction with the soul reading, right? So
Oh yeah.
we've been
Yeah.
but I guess just I don't want to leave anything out for just in case for anyone to understand. Oh, one thing that I had, so it was very interesting to me. So you had no connection even to having just given birth to your daughter. Like that didn't even make you want to come back. Like that was
Okay. Oh, so
yeah.
this is good. Okay, right now this is perfect to bring it back full circle. Okay.
Okay.
So like after working like with so like these 4 parts, the first one the review, second one the liquid light, the third one was working with a soul team, counsel, asking problems, kind of guidance. That's kind of the part where I feel like I'm engaged with really now. And then this final part was like with the after seeing that valley of souls, what I know to be souls, what to look like the sea of the vibrant flowers and colors. Okay, from that place was like this deep compassion and this unconditional love for the human experience.
Hmm.
Like all of a sudden, I had this deep awareness and finally came back full circle with the group that is like the council, my support team, like a instruction like team. I don't know how to describe it fully. But what I understood then is like I chose this me, myself, my soul, this eternal part of me wanted to be here, that I would feel such extraordinary regret, if you can imagine as a soul, okay, that there would be this desire of fulfillment and want to complete a purpose and a mission. It would be like an incomplete mission, that I failed the mission, that I, as my soul, myself, would want this experience for myself.
Mm,
Nobody made me do this. Nobody's causing any pain. Nobody's like, and what I'm here to do is even beyond the human story, beyond the day to day grind of we're here to be these extraordinary souls and to give light in everything that we do. Everything that we do, whatever way that looks like, that's what's important. Okay. If we hold that at our core and our purpose. So from that, I finally had this understanding I want to come back. Oh my God, I chose this. I want to be here. I want to help people, of course. So then it had like this preparation phase of like, okay, the return. So it felt like I already lived my life. Have I shown very specific parts, things that were going to happen potentially in the future when I got back, and all this preparation stuff, just like you would prepare for a mission. Okay.
mm,
So if you're going to go out for a mission and into war, okay, you're going to plan it out. You're going to know what's the territory, what's out there, what's going to happen. And then having the ability to have the courage. What gave me the courage to come back was after all of this. It was like I finally arrived at that first original place with the translucent Virgen and then the translucent Jesus, their intertwined immaculate and sacred hearts. I had like the full circle return. It was as though I was at that last scene of looking at the souls and this feeling of, yes, I want to go back. A feeling of like as if I closed my eyes and let that scene, and then all of a sudden opened up in that first pristine white place.
mm,
And then it was from there, it was like having this awareness and like this deep sense of love, a deep sense of purpose. And then it like as if La Virgen was in front of me, like human size now, and humanistic and inhuman, like not as see-through, somewhat more not as translucent, but still translucent. She had more form to her. And she was holding a baby,
oh wow.
and she kissed the baby, and all of a sudden I was like, oh my God, I had a baby.
Oh
And
wow.
then she kissed and she handed her to my mom. My mom was standing beside her in this place. Because
Mm,
again, we have to remember the greater, bigger part of ourself is already there. My mom is alive, literally holding my daughter. It was the
oh wow.
last memory that I had was seeing my mom holding my daughter. So in this moment, here she is kissing my daughter, handing her to my mom, and then the full awareness. I just had a baby. Oh my God, I'm not going to leave her motherless on the day that she's born. And so it literally, like, there was no, oh, que te vaya bien, may you have peace, good luck. It was like this like panic, a sheer panic. And just in that imagery of seeing this exchange of love. So from the Divine Mother to my mother to me as a mother of my daughter who may become a mother. So it
Mm,
was like this whole entire imagery of the divine feminine, the purpose of wisdom, like the energy that we carry, and then me panic. I had a baby. Then I cared.
wow.
Then I like it felt like as if I had turned, and like as if, and this is going to sound strange when I say it, but it was as if I had turned and was running, like to be like, oh my God, let me go. And I like ran and like crashed like on a 10-foot story, like almost like off of a cliff.
Wow.
And then I crash landed in my body. That's when I felt the tear.
Oh,
That's when I felt the head, the cradling, and the it's going to be okay. So it was the awareness of I'm not going to leave my daughter motherless on the day that she's born. And that was what brought me crash landed back.
wow.
Yeah.
So
And
that is what
then
brought you back then.
it is what brought me back.
Wow.
My daughter saved me on more than one occasion. It literally it was she, and not to diminish that, like, okay, I had my son, but it was, oh my God, not on the day that she's born.
Mm,
Am I going to leave her motherless? And that was the awareness. And then I cared. Then that crash landed, no ease in the goodbye. And I feel that I don't know if I don't want to say I shorted myself, but it's like there was no ease in the return. It was a crash landing, and then literally about a good 6 years of struggle. So 3, trying to figure it out and acclimate back. Another 3, to make peace with the being back. And then from there, making the decision, okay, you know, put on your put on the big girl clothes and let's do this. Okay, like yeah, like stop, just suck it up, get over it, and do the work. And then that's where it started. And in about 2008 is when it really, really, really flooded forward more in a public way, because that's when people started to really reach out and in a much, much bigger way. Probably before that, probably 2006. Yeah. And then 2008, I thought, okay, there's something happening here. This is something bigger than myself. And that's when I was saying, okay, God, since you're not taking it away, teach me, show me, and then to go in that direction through walking that faith in fire, walking that fire in faith. There you go.
And there's something. If this is too personal, just you don't have to answer, or I could edit it out or whatever. But it's a question I've been wanting to ask people, because I've noticed there is a recurring theme of for example, you said you were married. Did your spiritual evolution have to do with ending? Because I've noticed that it seems to be something that happens. I don't want to scare anyone away. Like,
yeah,
once you go on the spiritual path, chances are this is gonna happen. So was that kind of what
it was.
Oh wow.
It really truly was. And it truly was an act of love and self-love, okay, and love for the other, because we come into our connections, for reasons, and that we have this gift in this exchange. And then what also, again, the understanding is that like if part of you cannot fully come into fruition, if part of you has to be like, half dead. I don't want to say that, but like not fully coming alive. And because you're settling for something, you're afraid. And for me, I didn't want to hurt anybody. I didn't want to create change. I had, a 16-year-old and an 18-year-old, still didn't want to hurt anybody. But then when you're being called in a particular direction, knowing that authenticity, there's that, you know, it's not till death do you part if if your own soul cannot become fully enlivened. And so this was like a gift of freedom of like, I release this so that you can fully be, and for myself as well. And it's a spiritual thing, it's a soul thing, and that is what's most important. So you're absolutely right, is that every single person is here on their own unique path, and sometimes those do last for an eternity, for and soul agreements, soul mates. And they do come in and they do intertwine. And then sometimes they come in just for those brief moments to be able to give the gift of exchange to each other. And that when it runs its course, that most people suffer because they try to hold on to it, that it may, but if they're able to evolve, with two together. But so oftentimes that may not be the case because people are evolving on their own speed and their own path. And every single person must abide and honor their own most sanctified path. If someone stops their path for another, that is that is almost like a violation of that spark they hold inside of themselves. We all have a responsibility to that own unique part and to do our part, and that's hard.
No, and I've experienced a piece of that, and I think I guess you could just tell me if you agree with that, because that's what I seen this pattern of. We keep going through that until we learn the lesson, kind of too, because I did that at one point, like, kind of like that, even just having like musical talent. I killed all that for a relationship that after didn't end up, and I regretted that. Like, younger me, I wish I could go back and shake like, but it's fine, like you learn, but that was like and it feels like on the inside, like you're dying on the inside.
Yes,
like
because
your
it's a
soul.
betrayal. Yeah, it's a betrayal to the self. Every single one of us has this implanted seed like this of this passion. If people are like, I want to know my purpose, what am I supposed to do? Well, it's follow that passion inside and it will lead you and it'll take you to places that you can't even imagine, you know. but people think that their passion and their hobby, the thing that they live for, is different than what they do for a living to make money. Those have to become the same. So eventually that's what we're here to try to do. And you're right. It's like we put all of that stuff aside, oftentimes for, you know, thinking that that's the right thing to do, but it really is to hold on to that most sacred part and honor that. Because if not, it's like it's a betrayal of that peace inside and a betrayal of ourself. Yeah,
Wow.
like you said, you want to go back and shake that person because,
Yeah.
yeah, we don't know better because that's the system. That's what we think we're supposed to do, right?
Mm.
And so that's part of the system. And so when we're able to give people enough of those tools to be able to, like, no, keep going, it's okay, you have that courage, live that truth. Yeah.
And
Hopefully
I
we'll get there.
and hopefully someone doesn't say, "Hey, oh, I did it because I was watching that they were watching this interview and that's why they left their partner." Or not like, I mean, I don't know, whatever. To each their
Everybody's at where they're at. Everybody will get the message exactly the way they need to hear it. Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. So yeah, yeah. So I know we could, because we could keep talking forever, but so I want everybody to be able to reach you. So right now,
Mhm.
obviously you're working on a book, but so you offer the readings as well, right? Like
I do.
and you
So
also,
like
you said
it's
you teach as well. You
I
said you
do.
okay. So go ahead.
Yeah. So I literally am just transitioning over. So I gave up a massive, I used to work for my New Mexico Department of Health to be
Mm,
able to teach these classes and workshops because I'm passionate about helping people. And so I am actually embarking on doing an entire thing for myself to be able to teach people how to tune into this. So I have a couple of things. So I have a teaching podcast that I call the Sacred Revolution of Spirit. It's
mm,
about awakening the hidden, reclaiming the forbidden, and it's like teaching this soul technology. How do we tap into everything that I'm talking about? How do we learn to live in flow, let go of pain, all that stuff? And then the second one I do is a group event where I do like soul readings, but with groups. And I do
oh,
have a podcast. And so like that's a minimal amount and it's a good thing to do. Like with group events because I want things to be accessible and affordable and I want it to be accessible. And then I do also have private consultations.
mm,
Mhm.
okay. And then, so do you have a website where they can? I'll put the links below, anyways. But do you have a
Sure, sure.
website then where everything?
I do. So those podcasts are on my own YouTube channel, which is it's NDE underscore wise with my name, NDE wise Maria Lupita Gurulé. And then my website is my name, Maria Lupita Gurule.com. Yeah.
Perfect,
So
perfect.
the way my mama would say, she would say, like, just imagine it's like a guru with the Hawaiian lei, a
Ah,
gurule.
Gurulé. No, yeah, no, no.
Yeah.
And where does it come from? Your last name? I had never heard it before.
It's different. So it's originated from Spanish French. So my ancestry is like yours. So infiltrated from, desde Mexico up into New Mexico. And then but my part of my ancestry does come from, Spain and also from that area. So it was originated Grole, but through all of the senses and stuff, it was changed to Gurule. So
Mm,
yeah.
okay, no, it's not. It has a ring to it, so that's.
Yeah, thank you.
No, of course. And let me see. I don't want to leave anything out. I think that's about it, right? Like,
Wow. It's
no,
been such an incredible conversation. I've loved where we've been able to just be able to talk and have an ease in conversation and let it go wherever it needed to go. So, yeah, I thank you for that. It was awesome. Very relaxed and enjoyable.
no, no. I'm grateful. I'm very grateful for this conversation. No, like I almost, I would have kept it going. I would keep talking, but
I
uh,
know we can keep going. Yeah. I
there's
love
so many.
conversations like this. When you feel that connection and like you're just feel on fire, it can keep going. So I understand entirely. I've enjoyed it immensely. We'll probably have to come back, maybe do it again sometime. Who knows?
No,
If more
absolutely.
questions come up.
Yeah, and if you ever like, want me to come on your podcast or in the
Mm,
groups, or I'll be more than happy to. And no, I think one of the main things is because I have been able to talk to you about really anything we brought up, we were able to talk about it, and that's not always the case. So that's
mm.
always refreshing to as deep as it goes, like. So that's you
Well,
know.
that's what I love about this work. I mean, oh my, like I have so many stories like anything and everything that can exist does exist. And this is literally why I say it's like I never set plans. I never have any intentions. I just show up and just say, okay, whatever needs to come through, I allow and let, and it can go anywhere. This is why it's soul reading. This is truly like it can be anything. I have not seen any one topic that has not been able to be addressed or talked about because partially, even though I'm doing this, is like even channeling through it. So it's
Mm.
like I don't know if it came up before, even in this one, it's like, ooh, just because you're asking the question, I was showing this new stuff, and I'm like, holy cow, you know, that's just like so in the present moment, crazy stuff.
No,
Yeah.
absolutely. And I know I'll kick myself in the rear if I don't ask you this last question. So
Okay.
I heard you in, I don't know, an interview or somewhere talk about that you have a connection to pets as well.
Oh yeah.
Okay. So
Have a
okay.
go ahead.
So real quick, because this dog that I have right now,
Mhm.
you know, I posted about her because none of my other dogs did this. And I call her my little astral traveling dog. She's always in my dreams. She's literally turned into a person. She told me I'm so and so. So she turned
Oh
into
yeah.
this woman that I knew. And I'm just curious if you pick up on. I kind of didn't want to tell you that. I want to see if you can see
I wish I could have
who.
showed you or told you.
Oh no, but still, she told
Yeah.
me of it. I want to see if maybe you can see because she told me who she was. I want to see if they show you that. So I'm curious to know
Ah.
if they show you.
Oh man, damn! I wish we didn't. Okay, so here's the thing: when somebody asks, I'm like, I hope I get it right." So I'm already
Oh,
in
I'm
my
sorry. Yeah, I
head
shouldn't have said that.
about it. So I'm like, "Damn." Okay. However, what I can say is that yeah, dogs are really incredible, especially certain species. Not all. Okay, that there is an evolvement where soul that actually transform and transition into becoming human for sure, for sure. Especially with the level of awareness and things that they get. Okay.
But
Now,
go ahead.
go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say with her, it was the other way. It was like she showed me who she was someone, and it was like she reincarnated. I don't know on purpose to be my little
As
sidekick
dog.
or what. Yeah, yeah. Like I
Mhm.
was like,
Mhm.
what? And she's like,
Mhm.
and it was funny because in this vision I was playing stupid, and she's like, you know who I am, and I was like, oh yeah. I was like, what? Like, but you know, and no dog has ever done this, so she's always in my
Mhm.
dreams. Like the other, like last time, even in her dog form, she was talking to me, and I was like,
Mhm.
she's just this amazing.
Well, this is the craziest thing too, because I even call I call her my shaman dog. Okay.
Mm,
So I know that there are certain animals that have also chosen to incarnate with us to actually be in partnership with us.
mm,
Okay. So that is indeed the case.
mm.
So not in all cases. Um, but yeah, in this, but I don't know what I see like pointed ears and this dog is white. So I don't know if this what dog this looks like or what dog this might be in your experience, but it looks like very regal in the way that they're actually sitting and the paws are crossed like this. So does this make any sense to you, this imagery?
The paws, yeah, she does that with her paws, but
Uh-huh.
not the look of the dog. No.
So let me tell you, the way she sees herself is like very regal. I
And
see her so um, like, like it is funny because I see her bigger. I know you're saying that you say she's your little astro dog, but I see her bigger and she's like carrying herself and she just crosses her paws and she's like almost like just looking around. The energy that she carries is pretty intense and pretty cool.
yeah,
Oh
yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
very cool.
No, she sit like
Well,
there's a chair in the backyard, like you know, pretty high, and she sits on it like a person, you know. And
mhm,
you know, I've taken pictures. It looks funny. It's like I've never seen. None of my dogs have done that, right? But she'll sit in the chair like,
mhm,
and it's so
mhm.
crazy, you know.
Soul connections because it's also that part of like giving support. I don't know why, but I see the movie number four in my mind right now, where it's like this little dog that literally like was like um a shapeshifter
Mm,
from like this other realm. So like I don't know if you're familiar with that movie number
no,
four.
I'm gonna
Yeah,
watch it now.
check it
Yeah.
out.
Okay,
Check
now.
it out. Yeah, because it's like yeah, protects that there are some animals and some species that actually do choose to incarnate for those reasons to be like this kind of protectant to and especially when we're having difficulty with humans, that and we need this extra, they come to us for those reasons. Hmm.
And you know, and I know we're gonna talk about this in the soul reading, which is gonna be the part two to this video. And exactly, I knew it because how you said about you know, we're gonna talk about this, but how you say about the unsupported thing, she was a gift. She would literally, my brother has her sister, so he got her as one. She was a gift, and she's just from the beginning. There's something special about her, right? I've never like been so like you know like
You know what's I do like
she's special.
drawn
Yeah,
a
yeah. I know,
connection.
and I treat her so good. Like you know, I treat her. I don't want to yell at her. Even like if I like, you know, when she was little tearing everything up, she's still a puppy. She's only like a year and a half, but when she was tearing everything up, I didn't want to like smack her, nothing like, hey, what the like nothing. Like I just like
Mm-hmm.
something about her, you know, she's just
Mm-hmm.
yeah. But go ahead, I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
The energy, the vibe for sure. When a while ago I was going to ask you, I kept feeling like this energy of sister.
Yeah.
And I was going to ask you, like, if you yourself had sister, but it didn't feel like it to me. So I was like, where is sister coming through? So, but I didn't really say anything because yeah, we didn't pursue it. And we were talking, we weren't in the soul reading, we were in this one.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So if you just said no, that if she was the sister too. So I was like, oh, okay, I wonder.
Oh,
Hmm.
okay. Yeah. Yeah. So he gave me the system. No, but it was just well, okay. I'll tell you then. In the dream, she appeared. Oh, and it was confirmed. So this is what happened. Like I had that dream, and then I took her up to the mountain, and we didn't even go all the way to the top because I saw she was getting tired. So I turned back. I didn't even go all the way up to where I usually go. And when we got back to the car, she didn't want to get back in, and because I was like, "Come on!" Like I was so tired. I was like, "I don't want to. Like you're already getting heavy. I don't want to put you in the car." I'm like, "Come on, get in." And I'm literally like, I told her at least over 10 times, like just over. Finally, for some reason, I call her the name of the girl she turned into in the dream, and she jumps up and she gets right into the seat. I was like, "Nah." I was like, "All right."
Your validation.
Yeah, I was like, okay,
That,
it's really you. It's really you. Because in the
uh-huh.
dream, she told me, but here's I think she was a girl I knew for like 20 years ago that someone told me passed away. So I was like, why? Like, I mean, we knew each other. She was like dating one of my friends. So we kind of all hung out in that same circle. We go party, all this stuff. And me and her got along. We would even talk on the phone and everything. And then after my friend had been dating her, and then he told me, I'm almost sure that he told me that she had passed away at one point. I was like, what? No way, you
Mm-hmm.
know? And
Yeah. Soul
yeah,
families. Soul
yeah,
families.
yeah.
So like even and here's the thing is that people in our circle, like you're saying, like she dated a friend of mine. So it seems like a friend, a distant kind of like adjacent kind of relationship. But people that come on our paths are part of our bigger soul groups
Wow.
and our soul families. Okay. So why would she incarnate? So having that familiarity, just and then yeah, being part of that soul family and then to be part of that support. Hmm.
That's
Wow,
amazing.
crazy stuff. It's crazy how imagine how intricate it is to manage like all the connections, the souls. This is why I say the universe is efficient, man. Conspires in our favor, knows every soul, person, place, thing, event that must be put into place for situations and things. It is a massive organization that we can't even begin to imagine or even understand. It's incredible. And anything and everything. It's so much.
No, absolutely. And you know, the animal thing has been huge to me. When I was going through tough, they'd come to me in visions,
Hmm.
all this and that. So I think it's
Hmm.
important because just the fact that people have always thought of animals like these soulless creatures and their animals and the treatment towards them is just mind-boggling to me. And to me, you know, like they've literally been kind of like angels to me. Like, you know, they'll
Oh
even
yeah.
yeah. When I was going through this huge battle with like anxiety for the first time in my life, like right after the pandemic. But I knew it had to do more with probably my brother's passing. But it was like right when the pandemic was hitting, and I went to the mountain. And because you know, in the native culture, the bear is very, and even
Oh yeah.
the first tribe I started going to ceremonies with, they were a bear tribe, right? And so I ran into this bear for the first time in my life, and it was like I was like 15 feet from it, and I was like, oh wow. And I kind of like it was early in the morning, so I kept walking towards it, but then it just started running up the mountain. I was like, wait a second. And it brought this healing to me that was I
Hmm.
couldn't even, it started healing me. It was insane.
Yes.
It was
So what
just,
you're describing is animal medicine.
hmm,
So like Native Americans and anything that comes across our path, like it really truly does have medicine.
Mhm.
So like oftentimes when I'm in a place that I'll see a golden eagle in my area, which always reminds me, okay,
Oh, wow.
take the bigger site. So there's always a conveyance of information. All of nature communes to us, speaks to us and through us. And like you said, you received the energy, not only of the, this might be in the other one, a mountain lion, okay, but then also with the bear,
Mm.
you know, so yeah, animal medicine for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. Okay, so
So
I won't keep stretching it out because yeah, I feel
I
like
know.
we could have done a whole video about the animal medicine, definitely.
We sure can. You
Yeah,
know,
maybe we
one
can
of these times we'll have to see if we can come back, and if you have some questions, we'll just hang and see what comes.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, so Maria,
Alrighty.
thank you so much. I was so honored to have you here. Uh, yeah, no, it's beautiful. It's just been a beautiful conversation, and I'll put all the
I
links
agree.
so they could get in contact with you. Anyone that wants to get in contact with you, and thank you for sharing your story. I mean, that's it's always amazing to me, right? That from something painful, your NDE experience, all this has unraveled, and it's still, you're right, like it's still just uh
Well, you
it's
just gave
evolving.
me a message because I just talked to my daughter yesterday, and she was like, "Mama, what was that saying that Pumpy used to say?" So my dad used to always say, "Mija, no hay mal que por bien no venga." There's
Ah,
nothing bad that something good does not come out of it.
wow.
So you just gave me a little message back for me. Then I'm like, "Oh, I can't believe you just said that." So I'm like, "Yeah." So full circle.
Yeah.
So good. Stay connected, man. Let's
No,
have we'll continue the conversation. I'm sure we'll do this again.
definitely. So thank you so much.
Alrighty.
And on that,
Thank you.
okay, I'll talk to you.
Alrighty. We'll talk to you later.
Okay, bye bye.
Bye.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, sometimes you just feeling it, you know what I'm saying? You just feeling it. And I wanna feel this way forever.